Today I'll be talking about the respiratory gases and how they are transported around the body. Oxygen is transported in the blood in two different ways. It can be dissolved and transported in the blood plasma or transported by erythrocytes, otherwise known as red blood cells, by binding to the protein hemoglobin. Whilst oxygen can dissolve in blood plasma, only around 1.5% of all oxygen in the blood is transported this way. Most oxygen transported in the blood is transported from the lungs to cells and tissues via red blood cells. Oxygen binds to hemoglobin in red blood cells where it is carried to tissues. Hemoglobin is a protein made up of 4 polypeptide subunits, each of which surrounds a central heme group containing iron to which the oxygen can bind to. This allows each hemoglobin molecule to bind up to 4 oxygen molecules. The more oxygen that bonds to a hemoglobin molecule, the greater its affinity for oxygen will be. This is because oxygen changes the shape of the molecule. When oxygen binds to hemoglobin, it forms oxyhemoglobin. Oxyhemoglobin is red in colour and is why blood appears red when it comes into contact with air. When hemoglobin is bound to no oxygen, it is referred to as deoxyhemoglobin and is blue or purple in colour. Upon the inhalation of air into the lungs, oxygen diffuses across the respiratory membrane of the alveoli into the capillaries, where it further diffuses into the red blood cell to bind with hemoglobin. The oxygen is then transported through the circulatory system via the red blood cells. As the blood travels through the tissues, gas exchange occurs and oxygen is released into the systemic capillaries to the tissues and cells for cellular respiration. The other respiratory gas is carbon dioxide. Carbon dioxide is transported in the blood in 3 different ways. It can be dissolved and transported in the blood plasma, transported by erythrocytes by binding to hemoglobin in the red blood cells, or be transported in the blood in the form of bicarbonate. Around 5 to 7% of carbon dioxide in the blood is dissolved into and transported by the blood plasma from tissues. Whilst not considered highly soluble in blood, it is far more soluble in blood than oxygen. This dissolved carbon dioxide is transported in the bloodstream to the pulmonary capillaries where it diffuses across the respiratory membrane of the alveoli to be exhaled as a waste product. Carbon dioxide can also bind to the amino acid portions of the hemoglobin, as opposed to the iron portion to which oxygen binds. When carbon dioxide binds to hemoglobin, it forms carbaminohemoglobin. Carbon dioxide is transported to the lungs. Partial pressure of carbon dioxide is high in the pulmonary capillaries in comparison to the partial pressure within the alveoli, allowing carbon dioxide to freely dissociate from hemoglobin and diffuse across the respiratory membrane of the alveoli, where it can be exhaled as waste. About 10% of carbon dioxide in the blood is transported this way. Around 85% of all carbon dioxide transport in the blood is transported as dissolved bicarbonate ions. Carbon dioxide that diffuses into capillaries and into the red blood cells is converted by the catalyst enzyme carbonic anhydrase into carbonic acid. Carbonic acid is an unstable molecule and therefore will quickly dissociate into bicarbonate and hydrogen ions. When the blood reaches the lungs, it is converted back into carbon dioxide where it can diffuse across the respiratory membrane to be expelled as a waste product.